Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Horizon, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. 3 months ago, Earth had received the most important message in human history. An alien race called the Zephyrian Alliance wanted to meet with humans for peace talks. The message came from a place called Kepler 442b, a world far from Earth. The aliens said they wanted to share technology with humans. They promised trade deals and friendship. They even offered to give humans safe passage through their space territories. It sounded too good to be true. Jake had been exploring space for 15 years. He knew that when something seemed perfect, it usually meant trouble. But the people back on Earth were excited. Admiral Pete Johnson had personally chosen Jake to lead this mission. 3 ships would carry 200 of Earth's best people to meet these aliens. Commander Lisa Rodriguez walked up to Jake. She was the ship's weapons expert and his most trusted officer. Her face showed worry. "Captain, I still don't like this," Lisa said quietly. "These aliens are offering us everything we could want. Why would they be so generous to a species they just met?" Jake nodded. He had been thinking the same thing for weeks. "I know, Lisa, but our orders are clear. Earth wants this alliance. They think it could change everything for humanity." Dr. Amy Carter joined them at the front of the bridge. She was the team's expert on alien life forms. Her job was to study these new creatures and learn how they lived. Amy had spent months preparing for this meeting. "The energy readings from their ships are strange," Amy said, looking at her tablet. "Their technology is much more advanced than ours, but there's something else. The way they communicate feels calculated, like they're following a script." Jake looked at both women. Lisa was a fighter who had seen combat on Mars. Amy was a scientist who studied alien bacteria found on distant worlds. Both were smart and careful. If they were worried, he should listen. But Earth had made its choice. The 3 human ships carried diplomats, scientists, and trade experts. They also carried gifts to show human culture, music, art, and samples of Earth's best food. Everyone back home was hoping for a bright future with their new alien friends. The Horizon's communication officer, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks, turned from his station. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian fleet. They're welcoming us to Kepler 442b space." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The viewing screen changed to show an alien face. The creature had blue-green skin and large black eyes. Its mouth was wider than a human's and its teeth looked sharp. When it spoke, the translation software made its voice sound friendly. "Greetings, humans. I am Ambassador Vexter of the Zephyrian Alliance. We are pleased that you have accepted our invitation. Please follow our guide ships to the meeting location. We have prepared a safe place for your vessels while we discuss our future together." Jake stepped forward. "Ambassador Vexter, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the human fleet. We're honored to meet you and grateful for your hospitality." The alien's face showed what might have been a smile, but something about it made Jake uncomfortable. "Captain Morrison, we have been watching your species with great interest. Humans show much promise. We believe this meeting will be memorable for both our peoples." After the transmission ended, Lisa moved closer to Jake. "Did you see its eyes? They reminded me of a shark I saw once, cold and hungry." Amy was already working on her tablet again. "I recorded the entire conversation. I want to analyze his body language and voice patterns. Something doesn't feel right about the way he spoke." Jake understood their concerns, but they were committed now. The 3 human ships followed the alien guide vessels deeper into the Kepler 442b system. The guides led them toward a large asteroid field that surrounded the planet. Chief Engineer Tony Martinez called from the engine room. "Captain, these asteroids are huge. Some of them are bigger than our ships. The aliens want us to position our fleet right in the middle of them." "Are we safe there?" Jake asked. "Should be fine, sir. The asteroids are stable in their orbits. Actually, it's a smart place to park. The big rocks will protect us from space debris and radiation." As the human ships moved into position, Jake felt like he was being watched. The asteroid field was massive, with rocks floating in perfect formation around them. The Zephyrian guide ships moved away, leaving the humans alone among the giant stones. Dr. Carter was studying her instruments when she noticed something odd. "Captain, these asteroids are giving off strange energy readings. It's very faint, but it's there." "What kind of energy?" Jake asked. "I'm not sure. It could be natural minerals or maybe some kind of technology. But why would there be technology in asteroids?" Lisa checked her weapon systems. Everything looked normal, but she didn't feel normal. "Captain, I recommend we keep our shields up and weapons ready, just in case." Jake agreed. "Do it quietly. We don't want to seem unfriendly, but we should be prepared." Over the next 2 days, more Zephyrian ships arrived. They positioned themselves around the asteroid field, claiming they were there to protect the peace talks. Ambassador Vexter visited the human ships and gave tour of Zephyrian technology. The aliens showed them amazing machines that could create energy from nothing. They demonstrated weapons that could destroy entire mountains. They promised to share all of this with humanity if the talks went well. But Amy noticed something during these visits. The aliens always seemed to be counting things. They counted how many humans were on each ship. They studied the human weapons and shields. They asked detailed questions about Earth's military capabilities. "They're not just being friendly," Amy told Jake privately. "They're gathering intelligence. They want to know exactly what we can do in a fight." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "How many of their ships are here now?" Lisa had been keeping track. 47 warships, sir. All of them are bigger and more powerful than ours. If this is really a peace meeting, why do they need so many weapons?" That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He walked through the halls of his ship, checking on his crew. Everyone seemed excited about the aliens and their technology. They had no idea that their captain was starting to suspect they had flown into a trap. In the morning, Ambassador Vexter sent a message asking all human ships to power down their engines for the final ceremony. He said it was a Zephyrian tradition that showed trust between species. Jake stared at the message for a long time. Every instinct he had was screaming danger. But if he was wrong, he could destroy humanity's chance for an alliance with advanced aliens. He made his choice and sent back a reply agreeing to the ceremony. But he also sent a private message to his crew chiefs. "Be ready for anything," he told them. "And if something goes wrong, make sure the aliens regret it." The ceremony was supposed to begin at noon, ship time. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the Zephyrian ships move into new positions around the asteroid field. Something felt wrong about the way they were spreading out, but he couldn't put his finger on what. Dr. Amy Carter was at her station, still studying the strange energy readings from the asteroids. The signals had been getting stronger over the past hour. She frowned at her screen and called out to Jake. "Captain, the energy levels are spiking. Whatever is inside these asteroids is powering up." Her voice was tight with worry. Before Jake could respond, the space around them exploded into light. The asteroids suddenly came alive, their surfaces crackling with blue energy. What looked like solid rock began to shift and change, revealing massive metal structures underneath. "What the hell?" Commander Lisa Rodriguez shouted from her weapons station. "Captain, those aren't asteroids. They're some kind of weapons platforms." Jake felt his blood turn cold as he watched the transformation. Giant gun barrels emerged from the fake rock surfaces. Energy collectors unfolded like deadly flowers. Targeting systems locked onto the 3 human ships with mechanical precision. The largest asteroid split open completely, revealing a command station bigger than any human building. Ambassador Vexter's face appeared on every screen throughout the human fleet, but now his friendly mask was gone. His shark-like teeth showed in a cruel smile. "Surprise, humans," Vexter said, his voice no longer trying to sound kind. "Welcome to the graveyard. This is where species like yours come to die." Energy nets suddenly sprang up around the human ships, trapping them in a web of crackling power. The nets were perfectly positioned, blocking every possible escape route. Jake realized that the aliens had been planning this for a long time. "Captain, we can't move," Tony Martinez called from the engine room. "The energy nets are interfering with our propulsion systems. We're stuck." Lisa was already working at her weapons console. "Shields are holding, but barely. These nets are draining our power." "And sir, I'm counting weapons aimed at us from every direction." Jake activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We are under attack. This was a trap. Battle stations now." On the main screen, Vexter continued his speech. Your species has been growing too fast, humans. You spread across your solar system in just a few hundred years. You develop new weapons and technology at an alarming rate. The Alliance cannot allow such a dangerous species to threaten the galaxy. Dr. Carter looked up from her instruments. Captain, I'm detecting the remains of other ships in this asteroid field. Old ships, from different species. I think we're not the first ones they've brought here. The horrible truth hit Jake like a punch to the stomach. This wasn't just about humans. The Zephyrians had been using this place to eliminate other species for who knows how long. They were mass murderers on a galactic scale. How many? Jake asked quietly. Amy's voice was shaking. Dozens of different ship designs, maybe hundreds of vessels over the years. Captain, some of these wrecks are centuries old. Vexter was still talking, enjoying his moment of victory. We have studied your species carefully. We know about your weapons, your shields, your tactics. This trap was designed specifically for humans. There is no escape. Your destruction will be broadcast across the galaxy as a warning to other young species. The first wave of alien weapons fire began. Massive energy beams struck the human shields, causing them to flicker and spark. The ships rocked under the impact, throwing crew members to the deck. Shields down to 60%, Lisa reported. Captain, at this rate we have maybe 10 minutes before they break through. Jake's mind raced. The aliens were right about one thing: they had studied humans carefully. But there was something they didn't understand about his species. Humans were never more dangerous than when they were trapped with no way out. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks was working frantically at his communication station. Captain, I can't get a message through to Earth. They're jamming all our frequencies. Keep trying, Jake ordered. Use every trick you know. Earth needs to know what happened here. The second wave of weapons fire was stronger than the first. The ship's lights flickered as power was diverted to the shields. Jake could hear the hull groaning under the stress. Shields down to 30%, Lisa called out. Captain, we need to do something fast. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. These were good people who had followed him into space to explore and make contact with new civilizations. They deserved better than to die in an alien slaughterhouse. But as he watched his crew work, Jake saw something that made him smile grimly. They weren't panicking. They weren't giving up. Lisa was already working on modifications to their weapons. Tony was rerouting power to give them more time. Amy was analyzing the alien technology for weaknesses. Ryan was still trying to get a message through to Earth. Sir, Ryan suddenly called out, I found a gap in their jamming. I can get a short burst transmission through, but only one. Jake didn't hesitate. Send this message, Kepler 442b, ambush, Zephyrian Alliance, they underestimated us. Ryan's fingers flew over his controls. Message sent, Captain. It's on its way to Earth. The third wave of weapons fire struck their shields. The lights went out completely for a moment before the emergency power kicked in. When the lights came back on, Jake saw his crew looking at him with trust and determination. They think they know what humans do when we're cornered, Jake said, his voice carrying to every part of the ship. They studied our history and our tactics. They think they have us figured out. Another massive blast shook the ship. The shields were failing. But there's one thing they never understood about humans, Jake continued. We don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure the people who hurt us regret it for the rest of their lives. Lisa looked up from her station with a fierce grin. What are your orders, Captain? Jake looked at the weapons platforms surrounding them. 47 alien warships, hundreds of gun emplacements, energy nets designed to hold them until they died. It was the perfect trap, designed by a species that had been killing others for centuries. We're going to show them what happens when you try to put humans in a cage, Jake said. All stations, prepare for Operation Angry Hornet. Dr. Carter looked confused. Captain, what's Operation Angry Hornet? Jake's smile was cold as space. Something we just made up. The aliens studied our official tactics and strategies, but they never learned about human improvisation. The ship shook again as more weapons fire hit their failing shields. But now Jake felt something he hadn't felt since the trap was revealed. He felt hope. They wanted to make this our graveyard, he announced to his crew. Let's make sure it becomes theirs instead. Captain Jake Morrison's ship shook violently as another wave of alien weapons fire hit their failing shields. The lights flickered and sparks flew from damaged control panels. But Jake wasn't watching the damage reports. He was watching his crew work with the focused intensity that only humans showed when death was close. "Lisa, what do we have for weapons?" Jake asked. Commander Lisa Rodriguez looked up from her station. "Standard plasma cannons, torpedo tubes, and defense missiles. Nothing that can punch through their shields at this range." "Tony, how are the engines?" Chief Engineer Tony Martinez's voice came through the communication system from the engine room. "Engines are fine, Captain. But those energy nets won't let us move. However, I've been thinking about something. These nets are designed to hold ships, not to handle massive power surges." Dr. Amy Carter suddenly looked up from her science station. "Captain, I think I know why the aliens are so confident. Their weapons platforms are all connected to a central control system. They're not individual units, they're one giant machine." Jake felt a spark of hope. "Explain." "Look at this," Amy said, bringing her readings to the main screen. "Every platform is linked to the others through energy conduits. They share power, targeting data, everything. It makes them incredibly efficient, but it also makes them vulnerable," Lisa finished. "If we can disrupt the network, we might be able to create chaos in their system." Jake nodded. "Tony, can you overload our reactor?" There was a pause before Tony answered. "You mean deliberately, sir? That could destroy the ship." "Not completely overload it," Jake explained. "Just enough to create an electromagnetic pulse, something big enough to disrupt their energy net." "That's actually possible," Tony said slowly, "but we'd only get one shot, and we'd lose most of our power for several minutes." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was listening to every word. They all knew what he was asking. It was a desperate plan with almost no chance of success. "There's more," Amy added. "I've been analyzing the wreckage of those other ships in the asteroid field. I found something interesting. The aliens always attack the same way. They trap their victims and then destroy them slowly, probably to study their weapons and tactics. They're predictable," Lisa said with growing excitement. "They follow the same pattern every time." Jake activated the communication system to speak with the other two human ships. Captain Kelly Thompson commanded the science vessel Discovery. Captain Danny Lee led the supply ship Endurance. "Kelly, Danny, are you getting this conversation?" Kelly's voice came through clearly. "We're listening, Jake. My ship took heavy damage, but we're still operational." Danny added, "The Endurance lost our main weapons, but our cargo holds are full of mining equipment and industrial supplies. Not sure how much good that does us." Jake smiled. "Actually, Danny, that gives me an idea. How much spare metal and electronic components do you have?" "Tons of it." "Why, Amy, could we turn mining drones into weapons?" Dr. Carter's eyes lit up. "The mining drones have their own power systems and basic AI. If we could reprogram them and add some of our electronic components, yes, we could turn them into guided missiles or infiltration units." Lisa was already working on her tactical display. "If we release them at the right moment, during the electromagnetic pulse, the aliens won't be able to track them properly." Jake felt the plan coming together in his mind. It was crazy and dangerous, but it was also completely unpredictable. The aliens had studied human military tactics, but they had never seen anything like this. "Here's what we're going to do," Jake announced. "Tony, prepare for a controlled reactor overload. Kelly, your ship has the best sensors. You'll coordinate the timing. Danny, start loading those mining drones with every piece of electronic equipment you can spare." The ship shook again as more weapons fire hit them. Their shields were down to 15%. "How long do we need?" Jake asked. Tony's voice was tense. "Give me 5 more minutes to set up the overload safely. Amy, keep monitoring their control network. I want to know the exact moment to strike." Dr. Carter nodded and bent over her instruments. "Captain, I'm also detecting something else. There are maintenance tunnels running through the weapons platforms. The mining drones could use those tunnels to get inside their systems." Jake opened the communication channel again. "All ships, listen carefully. In 4 minutes we're going to hit them with everything we have, but not the way they expect." On the main screen, Ambassador Vexter appeared again. His alien face showed confidence and cruel amusement. "Humans, your shields are failing. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." Jake looked directly at the alien. "Ambassador, you studied us very carefully. But you missed something important about humans." "And what is that?" Vexter asked mockingly. We're really bad at giving up, Jake replied. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Positions everyone, Tony, start the overload sequence. The ship's engines began to hum with increasing power. Jake could feel the vibration through the deck plates. In the distance, he could see the other human ships moving into position. Amy, report on their network. All platforms are still connected. They're preparing for a final bombardment, sir. They're going to hit us with everything at once. Perfect, Jake said. Lisa, prepare to launch everything we have the moment the electromagnetic pulse hits. Danny, are those drones ready? Captain Lee's voice crackled through the communication system. Loaded and programmed. These little guys are going to carry more explosives than they were ever designed for. Jake watched the tactical display as the alien weapons charged up for their final attack. 47 warships and hundreds of weapons platforms, all focused on destroying 3 small human vessels. 30 seconds, Tony announced. Jake felt strangely calm. They were probably going to die in the next few minutes, but if they were going down, they were going to take as many aliens with them as possible. 10 seconds, Tony called out. Jake looked at his crew one last time. Lisa was ready at weapons control. Amy was monitoring the alien network. Ryan was prepared to coordinate communications between the ships. 5-4, 3-2, 1, pulse activated. The Horizon's reactor released a massive burst of electromagnetic energy. The pulse spread out in all directions, washing over the energy nets and weapons platforms like an invisible wave. For a moment, everything went dark. The energy nets flickered and failed. The weapons platforms stopped firing. Even the alien ships seemed to pause as their systems tried to cope with the electromagnetic interference. Now, Jake shouted. The 3 human ships launched everything they had. Missiles, torpedoes, and hundreds of reprogrammed mining drones flew out into the darkness. The drones were small and fast, designed to work in dangerous environments. But now they were carrying human-made explosives and electronic warfare packages straight into the heart of the alien weapons network. Jake watched the tactical display as dozens of small contacts raced toward the weapons platforms. The aliens were trying to reactivate their defenses, but the electromagnetic pulse had confused their targeting systems. First drones are reaching the platforms, Amy reported. They're using the maintenance tunnels just like we hoped. Lisa was tracking the larger missiles. Direct hits on 3 platforms. Their shields were down from the pulse. The aliens were beginning to recover from the surprise attack. Their ships started firing again, but now they were shooting at targets they couldn't track properly. Amy, what's happening to their network? Dr. Carter's voice was filled with excitement. The drones are inside their systems. They're uploading our virus programs directly into the alien computers. Captain, their network is starting to collapse. Jake allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had built the perfect trap, but they had made one mistake. They had assumed that humans would fight like every other species they had destroyed. They were about to learn that humans didn't follow anyone else's rules. The mining drones worked their way through the alien weapons platforms like termites eating through wood. Captain Jake Morrison watched his tactical screen as red warning lights began appearing throughout the Zephyrian network. The aliens' perfect trap was falling apart from the inside. Amy, what's the status on their control systems? Jake asked. Dr. Amy Carter's fingers flew over her console. The virus programs are spreading faster than I expected. The aliens connected everything together, so when one platform gets infected, it passes the virus to all the others. Commander Lisa Rodriguez looked up from her weapons station with a fierce grin. Captain, 3 more weapons platforms just went dark. And look at this, some of them are starting to target each other. On the main viewing screen, Jake could see the chaos spreading through the alien formation. Weapons platforms that had been perfectly coordinated minutes ago were now firing randomly. Some had stopped working completely. Others were spinning out of control as their guidance systems failed. Chief Engineer Tony Martinez's voice came from the engine room. Captain, our power is back online. The electromagnetic pulse worked better than we hoped. Their energy nets are completely down. Jake felt a surge of hope. For the first time since the trap was revealed, they had a real chance of survival, but he knew the fight was far from over. The Zephyrian warships were still functional and they had enough firepower to destroy the human fleet. "All ships, this is Morrison," Jake announced on the fleet communication channel. "Phase 1 is complete. Moving to Phase 2. Kelly, Danny, are you ready?" Captain Kelly Thompson's voice came through clearly. "Discovery is ready, Jake. Our sensors are tracking 47 alien ships. Most of them are trying to regroup," Captain Danny Lee added. "Endurance is in position. We've got more surprises ready for our alien friends." Jake watched as Ambassador Vexter's face appeared on the communication screen again, but now the alien looked confused and angry instead of confident. "What have you done?" Vexter demanded. "Your primitive technology cannot defeat our systems." Jake smiled coldly. "Ambassador, you're right that our technology is simpler than yours. But that's exactly why it's working. Our virus programs are so basic that your advanced computers can't recognize them as threats." Dr. Carter had been monitoring alien communications, and now she looked up with excitement. "Captain, I'm intercepting their internal messages. They're completely confused. They don't understand how we're doing this." Lisa was tracking the alien ships on her tactical display. "Sir, they're trying to disconnect their ships from the weapons platforms. But they're having trouble because their whole network was designed to work together." Jake realized this was their chance. The aliens were focused on fixing their systems, not on attacking the humans. "All ships prepare for close combat. We're going to board their command vessel." Tony's voice came through the communication system. "Captain, are you sure? Their ships are much bigger than ours." "That's exactly why they won't expect it," Jake replied. "They think in terms of long-range battles between fleets. They're not prepared for humans to get up close and personal." Jake opened a channel to his entire crew. "Listen up, everyone. We're about to do something that's never been done before. We're going to capture an alien command ship. I won't lie to you, this is dangerous. But if we succeed, we'll have their command codes and can shut down their entire operation." Chief Warrant Officer Sandra Kim, who had been working quietly at her engineering station, suddenly spoke up. "Captain, I've been studying the gravitational anchors that hold these weapon platforms in position. I think I can reverse them." "Explain," Jake said. Sandra brought up a technical display. "The platforms use artificial gravity to stay in formation. If I can hack into their control system and reverse the polarity, the platforms will start pulling toward each other instead of staying apart." Amy's eyes widened with understanding. "That would cause them to collide. The aliens built this trap in a perfect formation, but if we reverse the gravity fields, it becomes a demolition derby," Lisa finished with a savage smile. Jake felt a rush of pride in his crew. Even in the middle of a deadly battle, they were thinking of new ways to turn the enemy's weapons against them. "Sandra, do it. How long do you need?" "Give me 5 minutes to break into their gravitational control system." Jake turned to Lisa. "Prepare a boarding party. We're going after Vexter's command ship while Sandra creates chaos with the weapons platforms." The next few minutes passed in tense concentration. Sandra worked on the gravitational systems while Lisa organized the boarding party. Amy continued monitoring alien communications, reporting on their growing confusion and panic. "Captain," Amy called out, "they're trying to activate some kind of failsafe system. I think Vexter is planning to destroy the entire asteroid field rather than let us escape." Jake felt cold anger wash over him. The alien was willing to kill his own people just to make sure the humans died too. How long until he can activate it? Maybe 10 minutes, but I'm not sure. Their command codes are very complex. Sandra looked up from her station. "Gravitational reversal is ready, Captain. Once I activate it, those weapons platforms are going to start crashing into each other." "Do it," Jake ordered. Sandra pressed a series of controls on her console. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then slowly, the massive weapons platforms began to move. Instead of staying in their perfect formation, they started drifting toward each other. The movement was slow at first, but it quickly picked up speed. The artificial gravity fields that had held the platforms in place were now pulling them together like magnets. "It's working," Lisa reported. "The platforms are colliding. Look at that one, it just crashed into 3 others." On the viewing screen, Jake could see the destruction spreading through the alien formation. Weapons platforms the size of buildings were smashing into each other, creating explosions that lit up the darkness of space. The alien warships were trying to get away from the chaos, but many of them were caught in the gravitational fields. Jake watched as one enemy vessel was pulled into a collision with a weapons platform, both ships exploding in a ball of fire. Vexter's command ship is trying to escape, Amy reported. But they're having trouble because their navigation systems are still connected to the weapons network. Perfect, Jake said. Lisa, launch the boarding party. Take 20 of our best fighters and capture that ship. I want Vexter alive. Lisa nodded and headed for the shuttle bay. What about the failsafe system? Leave that to me, Jake replied. As Lisa's boarding shuttle launched toward the alien command ship, Jake opened a communication channel directly to Ambassador Vexter. The alien's face appeared on screen, but now he looked desperate and frightened instead of confident. Human Captain, stop this madness. If you continue, I will destroy everything. Jake leaned forward. Ambassador, you made one big mistake. You thought you were fighting a military fleet, but we're not soldiers, we're explorers. We solve problems for a living, and right now you're just another problem that needs solving. Behind Vexter, Jake could see alien crew members running around in panic. Alarms were blaring and sparks were flying from damaged equipment. Your trap was perfect, Jake continued. But you built it to catch the kind of enemy you understood. You never considered that we might not fight the way you expected. On his tactical display, Jake could see more weapons platforms colliding and exploding. The alien fleet was in complete chaos, with ships trying to escape the gravitational disturbances while also dealing with the virus infections in their computer systems. Amy looked up from her station. Captain, I'm detecting Commander Rodriguez's shuttle approaching the alien command ship. But sir, Vexter is still trying to activate that failsafe. Jake smiled grimly. Then it's time to make sure he doesn't get the chance. Commander Lisa Rodriguez burst through the airlock of the alien command ship with 20 human fighters behind her. The Zephyrian vessel was much larger than any human ship, with tall corridors and strange blue lighting. But size didn't matter when you were fighting for your life. The aliens inside were taller than humans but moved slower. Their advanced technology had made them soft over the centuries. They carried energy weapons that could burn through metal, but they had never fought against humans who used speed and teamwork instead of superior firepower. Lisa's team moved through the ship like a pack of wolves. The aliens tried to set up defensive positions, but humans didn't fight the way they expected. Instead of standing and shooting, the humans rolled, jumped, and used the ship's own corridors against the defenders. Command deck is 3 levels up, Lisa said into her radio. We need to get to Vexter before he activates that failsafe. Back on the horizon, Captain Jake Morrison watched the battle through Amy's sensor readings. The alien fleet was falling apart around them. Half of the weapons platforms had crashed into each other, creating a field of wreckage and explosions. Many of the warships were damaged or destroyed, but Jake wasn't celebrating yet. Dr. Amy Carter was tracking energy readings from Vexter's ship, and they weren't good. Captain, the alien commander is charging up some kind of massive weapon, Amy reported. If he activates it, the explosion will destroy everything in this asteroid field, including us. Jake gritted his teeth. Vexter was willing to kill thousands of his own people just to make sure the humans died too. It was the act of a creature that had never learned to accept defeat. How long until Lisa reaches the command deck? Jake asked. Amy checked her readings. 2 more minutes. But the weapon will be ready to fire in 90 seconds. Jake made a decision that would have seemed crazy to any alien military commander. Instead of trying to escape, he ordered his ship to move closer to the alien command vessel. Captain, what are you doing? Tony Martinez called from the engine room. If Vexter wants to destroy everything, he'll have to look us in the eye when he does it, Jake replied. Open a communication channel. Ambassador Vexter's face appeared on the main screen. The alien looked desperate and angry. Behind him, Lisa and her team were fighting their way through his ship, getting closer every second. Human Captain, stay back, Vexter snarled. I will destroy us all before I let your primitive species defeat the Alliance. Jake stared at the alien with cold fury. Primitive, Ambassador, look around you. Your perfect trap is now your tomb. Your advanced weapons are scrap metal. Your fleet is destroyed. Who's primitive now? Through the ship's sensors, Jake could see the full extent of the destruction. Where once there had been a carefully organized killing field, now there was only chaos and wreckage. 47 alien warships had been reduced to 12 damaged vessels trying to escape. The weapons platforms were gone, smashed into pieces by their own gravitational fields. This was supposed to be our graveyard, Jake continued. But you're the ones who are going to be buried here. Vexter's hand moved toward a control panel. The Alliance has destroyed hundreds of species in this place. You will just be one more. That's where you're wrong, Jake said. Amy, show him what we found. Dr. Carter put the data from the alien databases on the main screen. Ship after ship appeared, showing the remains of dozens of different civilizations. Each one had been lured to this place with promises of peace and friendship. Each one had been murdered by the Zephyrian Alliance. We know what you are now, Jake said. You're not an alliance. You're parasites. You've been feeding off the galaxy for centuries, killing anyone who might challenge your power. Vexter's alien features twisted with rage. We maintain order, we prevent chaos. Weak species like yours would destroy everything if left unchecked. Wrong again, Jake replied. We're going to make sure no one else dies in your trap. At that moment, Lisa's voice came through the communication system. Captain, we've reached the command deck, but Vexter locked himself in the control room. He's got some kind of weapon ready to fire. Jake could see the alien commander's hand hovering over the firing control. One touch and the massive explosion would kill everyone in the asteroid field. Lisa, can you get through the door? Negative, sir. It's sealed with energy barriers, but Captain, I think I found something. There are other control panels out here. Amy, can you walk me through shutting down their power systems? Dr. Carter immediately began working on her console. Lisa, I'm sending you the technical data now. If you can access the main power coupling, you might be able to cut off energy to his weapon. Jake watched Vexter's face as the alien realized what was happening. His own ship's technology was being turned against him by humans who had been studying it for only a few minutes. You cannot stop the Alliance, Vexter said desperately. There are thousands of us across the galaxy. Maybe, Jake replied, but there won't be any here. Lisa's voice came through the radio again. Got it. Power systems are down. His weapon is dead. Vexter pressed the firing control frantically, but nothing happened. The lights on his command deck flickered and went out. Jake could hear alien voices shouting in panic throughout the ship. It's over, Ambassador, Jake said. Surrender now and we might let some of your people live. The alien stared at Jake with hatred and disbelief. In all his centuries of commanding this killing field, no species had ever turned his trap against him. No one had ever made him feel helpless and afraid. This is impossible, Vexter whispered. Your species is barely out of its solar system. You have no advanced weapons, no superior technology. How did you defeat us? Jake smiled grimly. You studied our weapons and our ships. You analyzed our tactics and our strategies. But you never understood the most important thing about humans. What? Vexter asked. We don't know when to quit. Lisa's team broke through the control room door and captured the alien commander. Within an hour, the remaining Zephyrian ships had surrendered. The trap that had killed hundreds of species over the centuries was finally broken. Jake stood on his bridge, looking out at the wreckage of the alien fleet. The asteroid field that was supposed to be humanity's graveyard was now filled with the remains of their enemies. Dr. Carter approached him with a data pad. Captain, I've been analyzing their databases. This alliance has been systematically eliminating emerging species for over 1,000 years. Dozens of civilizations that might have grown into great powers. Not anymore, Jake said. Send all this data back to Earth. Let them know what we found here. Ryan Brooks looked up from his communication station. Captain, I'm getting a response to our earlier message. Earth received our transmission and they're sending the entire fleet. Admiral Johnson wants to know our status. Jake thought for a moment, then smiled. Tell the Admiral that the Zephyrian Alliance made a mistake. They thought they were setting a trap for humans. Instead, they just gave us a reason to clean up this part of the galaxy. Amy finished downloading the alien databases and looked up. Captain, these records show the locations of other Alliance facilities, other killing fields like this one. Good, Jake replied. We'll need those coordinates. Lisa's voice came through the communication system from the captured alien ship. "Captain, we've secured the prisoners. Vexter wants to negotiate." Jake's expression hardened. "Tell the ambassador that humans don't negotiate with mass murderers. He can explain his crimes to a human court." As the three human ships prepared to leave Kepler 442b, Jake made one final announcement to his crew. "People of Earth, this was supposed to be a diplomatic mission. Instead, we uncovered one of the greatest crimes in galactic history. The species that called themselves our friends were actually our executioners." He paused, looking out at the wreckage floating around them. But they made one fatal error. They thought they knew what humans were capable of. They thought they could predict how we would fight and how we would die. Jake's voice grew stronger. "They were wrong. We didn't just survive their trap, we turned it into their grave. And now we're going to make sure no other species suffers the same fate." The human fleet departed Kepler 442b, carrying with them the proof of Zephyrian crimes and the coordinates of other Alliance facilities. Behind them, the asteroid field that had once been a perfect killing machine was now a monument to the price of underestimating humanity. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were no longer just explorers seeking peace among the stars. They had become something far more dangerous, liberators with a cause and the will to see it through.